You know, when we hear ancient scriptures, we probably picture dusty old books, right? But what if I told you one of the oldest, the Vedas, was less like a book and more like a complete operating system for an entire civilization? We're about to dive in and see how these incredible verses are packed with everything from advanced science to a philosophy that, believe it or not, still has a lot to teach us today.
So here's our game plan. We'll start by looking at the Vedas as this amazing ancient knowledge system. Then we're going to dig into the science packed inside those verses. We'll explore their core idea of cosmic order, meet some of the brilliant women of the Vedic Age, and wrap up with a cool connection between ancient chants and modern-day AI. Let's get started.
All right, first up, an ancient knowledge system. So, let's get right to it. What exactly are the Vedas? You might think, oh, they're just old religious texts, but honestly, that's not even half the story. To really get it, we need to zoom out and think way, way bigger.
So let's start with this question. What if the world's oldest scriptures were actually a complete operating system for a civilization? I mean, really think about that for a second. That's the idea that changes everything. It reframes the Vedas from just a bunch of hymns into this integrated blueprint for how to run a society, how to live your life, and even how the universe works.
Okay, so this Vedic corpus isn't one book. It's more like a whole library. You've got the four main texts, the Rigveda, Yajurveda, Samaveda, and Atharvaveda, which were put together over, get this, a 1,000-year period between 1500 and 500 BCE. They are the absolute foundation of what's known as the Indian knowledge system, covering, well, pretty much everything.
Now this is where it gets really fascinating. We're not just talking about abstract philosophy here. The Vedas were basically a practical encyclopedia with some seriously sophisticated scientific ideas woven right into the verses themselves. I mean, just look at this list. You've got Ayurveda, the system of medicine and healing; Jyotisha, which is all about astronomy and keeping time; the Sulba Sutras. These are amazing. They lay out the foundations of geometry way before the ancient Greeks got there, not to mention linguistics and even advanced farming techniques. This is so much more than religion. It's a whole scientific tradition in its own right.
And check out this quote from the Yajurveda. May my rice plants and my barley and my beans and my sesame and my wheat and my lentils prosper by sacrifice. See, it's not some vague prayer for a good harvest. It's a super specific list of the exact crops they depended on. It shows just how practical their knowledge was. Their understanding of agriculture was so important, it was actually sacred.
Okay, so we've got science, we've got agriculture, but it wasn't just a jumble of random facts. It was all tied together by this one really profound idea, a unifying philosophy that was seen as the framework for, well, everything.
And that central principle is called Rita. It's this foundational Vedic concept of cosmic order, truth, and balance. Think of it as the underlying operating system of the universe itself. It's what governs the movement of the stars, the changing of the seasons, and even the moral actions of people. It's this invisible, universal rhythm that keeps everything in harmony.
And what's so cool is how this one big idea, Rita, evolves. First, you have Rita, the universal cosmic law. From that, you get Dharma, which is your individual and social duty to live in alignment with that cosmic law. And then you have Karma, which is really just the law of cause and effect. It's the natural consequence of whether your actions are in line with Dharma or not. See how it all connects?
You know, what's really interesting is that the ancient Indians weren't the only ones thinking this way. If you look at ancient Egypt, they had a concept called ma'at. It was all about truth, balance, order, and justice. A very similar idea, right? It just goes to show this is a fundamental human thing, this deep need to find order and meaning in the cosmos.
All right, so we've talked science and philosophy. Now let's get into the social side of things, because the Vedic Age had a perspective on the role of women that honestly might surprise you.
Just listen to this. Women in India enjoyed high status in society. They were fully equal to men in terms of access to and capacity for the ultimate knowledge of the absolute. Wow, that is a powerful statement. Think about it. At a time in history when so many other cultures were pushing women to the side, Vedic society saw them as complete intellectual and spiritual equals. They had access to education and were seen as essential partners in the quest for knowledge.
And this wasn't just an idea, it was a reality. Look at these names. Gargi, Maitreyi, Apala. These are just a few of the female sages known as Brahma Vadinis. They weren't just studying the Vedas, they were composing parts of them. Their hymns, their wisdom, were considered so important that they were preserved right alongside the works of their male counterparts for thousands of years.
Okay, for our final section, we're going to jump from the ancient past straight into the world of modern technology. Because the way the Vedas were passed down for centuries has created a really interesting problem for today's AI.
Get this, for thousands of years, the Vedas weren't written down, not a single word. The entire library was preserved entirely through a super precise oral tradition. Think about that. It was all passed down through chanting, where every single syllable, every single pitch had to be memorized perfectly. It's honestly one of the most incredible feats of human memory ever.
So how on earth did they do it? How did they maintain that level of precision? Well, take a look at this. On the left, you've got the basic Sanskrit text, but on the right, see all those little marks above and below the letters? That's the secret sauce. Those are pitch accent marks. They're not just for pronunciation. They are a complex code that tells the chanter the exact melody for every single syllable. It's like musical notation and grammar all rolled into one.
And that brings us to the modern challenge. See, most of the digital versions of the Vedas we have today look like the text on the left, the simple version, without those crucial accent marks. So right now, one of the grand challenges for AI is to teach a machine how to put them back in. They're literally trying to train an AI to replicate a feat of memory that humans perfected over millennia. How cool is that?
So when you put it all together, it's pretty clear. The Veda corpus is not some dusty relic from the past. It's a living, breathing knowledge system, a beautiful mix of science, philosophy, and art that's still incredibly relevant today.
And that really leaves you with a final, big question, doesn't it? If this one body of knowledge is so incredibly deep and has survived for thousands of years, it just makes you wonder, what other ancient wisdom is out there waiting to be rediscovered?